Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, Meridia and Val clash, but it becomes clear that there's a reason the Iron Wolf was feared across all lands from ocean to ocean. There's still a Machine King to track down, but can these two bullheaded warriors coexist well enough to catch him? Find out next on the Seventh Valkyrie. She grasped and kicked against the tree, tried to flip up, but he had her pinned. "Let me go," she said. He chuckled, his voice coming from further up and further away than if he'd been just standing behind her. "What, do you have your fucking knees on the tree?" He did. "Fuck, will you let me go? You're about to rip my fucking arms off," she growled. He manipulated her wrists with that iron grip until she lost control of her knife, and then with a graceful dismount, he dropped back down to the forest floor, still ready, and circled away from her, back towards the clearing. She rubbed her arms and steadily picked her knife back up, grabbing a second from her backup pouch. At a barked command from the false wolf, the dogs leapt up to their feet and nuzzled their master, sitting at a second command and receiving plenty of affection as well as a treat for their troubles. Then, at a third command, they laid down happily, two wolfhounds lounging next to the false wolf. "You bastard. You called them off," Meridia said, crossing her arms as the false wolf turned to face her. "That shout when you were falling, it wasn't a curse. You called them off, didn't you?" "I did." "You fucker! One day that arrogance is gonna get you killed and I'll be the first one in line to do it." "It's not arrogance," the false wolf said. "Just reality. You weren't gonna kill me, just try to get the upper hand, and even if you were trying to kill me, you're not a threat right now. Not when you're wearing a weight vest, you're the one worn down and I'm the one with all of the energy." Meridia growled and stepped forward, but the false wolf cut her off. "Plus, I don't know if it's because you're tired or you're just frustrated, but you've gotten sloppy. You twitch your lead leg every time you're going to throw a punch or a kick. Not to mention that your combos are never more than 2 or 3 strikes, though you do react relatively quickly between them." "Fuck you. I don't need your advice." "Well, you could use it. No one's above having some continued learning, not even me." Ugh. "Besides, I don't even twitch my lead leg," she said. "Well, speak for yourself, but you definitely 100% always twitch your lead leg." She walked up, paced twice in front of him, threw 3 different feints, and then swung around with another back heel kick. Only this one she pulled 2, and spun back around into a front roundhouse. He caught her leg mid-swing, leaving her standing on one foot. "Now, that was much better, but even when you don't twitch much, your feints have just a touch less sell to them than your heavy hitters. It's small, but a really good fighter is going to get you on that." She stepped up off his hip and swung for another roundhouse to clock him in the side of the head, but he ducked that one and then kicked her almost effortlessly in the chest. She fell to the ground, or would have if he hadn't still been holding her, and as she bounced towards the floor, he used her leg for leverage and swung her in an arc towards the little spring, hurling her like a hammer toss a few yards away and forcing her to sheathe both knives so she could land on all 4s. Resisting the urge to hurl both knives at him, she growled. "Fucking good fighter. I am a good fighter," she spat. "I am a really good fighter. There has never been a soldier that I couldn't outfight." "And what about a light courseman? Or a Brinspor? Or an X?" She gritted her teeth. "I said before you've got incredible potential, but you're raw as hell, Meridia. Do the Light Corps not train against each other anymore?" "When we can. We're busy with the operations of the..." So no. Because I'm pretty sure the swordsmen and swordswomen I trained against never would have let you develop these kinds of flaws in your game. Also, what the fuck is your style? When we fought, you made a point to match every single stroke I put out. I am bigger than you. I am heavier than you. I am stronger than you. You know that. I know that. Why the hell are you just trying to meet my strokes head on? What, you think I should just be afraid of you because you think you're stronger? She asked through gritted teeth. The light core barks down from nothing. The false wolf snorted. Have you ever tried to arm wrestle an ox? He said. Of course not, that would be fucking stupid. Good, then leave pulling carts to them, and you learn how to kill, not how to bash your strokes against someone bigger than you like you're trying to become the fucking alpha bull wall. What the fuck is a bull wall? Meridia asked. Oh, it's like this big sea creature that lives up by Reichsburg. They climb on shore and slam their bodies against... You know what? It doesn't matter. It seems like it matters to you. The bull wall isn't the point. Meridia, what happens when you come up against a stone man who's got gifted strength? What happens when you come up against a sea strider fighting with the water at his side? Are you just gonna try to beat them down too? What, and you think you could just stroll into those fights and win comfortably? She demanded with a scoff. He responded with a scoff of his own. Of course not. But I could kill them before they killed me, and I'd know how I'd do it. And I'd have a hell of a better time fighting them than what you could do with that weird-ass fucking style. My style has gotten me into the fucking light core, she said, stepping forward toward him. And it put you out of commission, didn't it? You put me out of commission in a 2v1 fight where I was more concerned about protecting my hounds than my own life, he said. After a nearly 70-hour straight ride to warn you and your damn town, which itself was right after more than 14 hours straight of active combat. They both stepped forward until they were each a step from each other's range. As close as two exceptionally trained fighters could be from being toe-to-toe. Ah, and you want to try that on again, she said, reaching for her knives. She was furious, ready to go, but when she met his eyes, his enormous figure silhouetted against the rising moon, she paused. He had a different manner to him now. I'm done with this squabbling, Meridia. I'll fight you, but only if you want to get hurt this time. Come on, you think I'm doing this just to fuck with you? Tired or not, you dueled me to a standstill on potential and nothing else, even with that garbage style. You're like a fucking stallion pulling a plow. I'm just saying you drop a bit of that pointless muscle, focus on your strengths, and you'll be twice as deadly. For a flash, Meridia felt like she was just back at festival dances, being turned down for being too bulky, too strong, too tall, and then she rolled her eyes. You know, you're not the first man to call the muscle pointless, and you sure as hell won't be the last, but it's what the light core standards require. What, you think it's so easy being a beefy fucker who could pass the strength standards without lifting a day in your life? Fine. But don't you judge me for rising to the goddamn challenge. She stepped forward into his striking range and drew up to every inch of her height, moving until she was almost chest to chest with him, unafraid. But rather than being smug or like an asshole like she'd expected, he looked thoughtful. Meridia, how many other women are in the light core right now? He asked. And how many meet those standards? Meridia stepped back and shrugged. I'm not sure. I've seen the names of 3 other women on the lists, but I've never met them. Are Night Spirit and Vessa still around? He asked. She raised her eyebrow, then shook her head. No, they retired after the war, she answered, and that made him burst out laughing. So it was that easy. Just retire, he said to himself. He snapped out of it. Anyway, let me guess. They put those standards in, the ones you talked about, after the war sometime, right? Meridia paused. They've always had the standards, she said. The false wolf stepped back from her to an arm's distance and shook his head. No, they haven't, he said. Back when I was there, or if you don't believe me, back before the war, the only standards were that you were good enough, you were dedicated enough, and you had proven yourself to the core. I guess that's another thing that changed, but the reason I ask is because Night Spirit, Vesa, they were never going to be stronger than me. Of course they wouldn't, I'm a big beefy fucker like you said, but they were quicker than vipers. They were agile, flexible, it was like trying to fucking punch water. And when you have a knife, it doesn't matter how strong you are, it matters how many times you cut the other motherfucker. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call that muscle on you useless. I know it must have taken years of hard work, but I'm mostly pissed off that for whatever goddamn reason you are being coached away from the exact same things that could make you dangerous. Meridia bristled, but she couldn't quite find anything to be pissed at him for. So she settled on being pissed at that fact. That's not fucking fair. It was less a complaint and more a statement. You are goddamn right. But we've talked about this ever since you were standing outside my cell. You had me in a cage and you could have killed me then. Well, fuck, that wouldn't have been, what, honorable? I'm bigger than you, that's not honorable. Look left, look right, now you're a ball of ash if you weren't paying attention to a scorcher. That's not what the world is, things aren't fair. If you start playing to your strengths, maybe you can start tipping the scales to be unfair in your own favor for once. Meridia turned away in a huff, grunted, and then walked over to where the list had fallen. She handed it back to the false wolf. You are an asshole, she said. Don't get caught. He had another wry smile as he took the paper from her, glanced over it once, and then tucked it into his coat and whistled to his hounds, turning to go. Meridia watched him stride into the darkness, then in a flash threw her knife, slinging it straight towards the small of his back. He stepped aside effortlessly, and the knife whizzed past him to lodge in the wood of the tree behind him. He stopped and flicked the knife, letting it vibrate in the tree. Also, has anyone ever told you that you grunt when you throw a knife? It's a classic tell. Fucking hell, I get it, Val, Meridia shouted. He chuckled and then gave a wave over his shoulder and continued on into the darkness, leaving Meridia alone to light her travel lamp, dig her knife out of the tree, start searching for the one she had tossed into the woods, and begin the long trek back home. The entire way, the entire time, she was trying as hard as she could to think about anything but the advice he had given her, and how she could apply it to her training. Want to know what happens next? Join us on Patreon to become a hero of Edera and get early access to episodes along with bonus features, director's commentary, and the full Tab to Archive. You can also find other ways to support us at the links in the description, and we will see you next week.